K.T.E. Put it together, and what do you get? A wrestling podcast that struggles to remember things.
Yeah.
Hi. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. This is a 100% completely brand new series, and we're calling it, Hey, Remember When? What we're going to be talking about is Elijah's specialty. Remembering the past of WWE, TNA, WCW, you name it.
I remember. You name it. I remember.
Elijah remembers it, so you don't have to. And today, the very first inaugural episode is a focus on someone I know over the years Elijah has had some mixed feelings about,
Very mixed.
but has ultimately come to respect, I think. So, Elijah, this is your segment. This is your show. Take it away.
Today, we're going to talk about none other than Bray, Husky Harris, Wyatt Rotunda, Bo Dallas's brother, amazing promo, you name it. There's so many adjectives to describe Bray Wyatt. I mean, first off, Bray's family was in the wrestling business. I mean, his dad, IRS, the Rotundas, his uncles, Bray grew up in a wrestling family, and so from a very young age, he understood the business. He knew what it took, and he had that creative, he already had that creative juice in his mind and what it took or takes to be successful. In fact, he actually wrestled in high school. He won a championship in 2005. Had a short term with a little football stream, but ultimately his family called him in.
You can't deny your calling.
No, I mean, he got onto FCW, which was Florida Championship Wrestling, was a precursor to NXT, and right after OVW, and it was like it's the training, and so that's where he started, and he actually teamed with his brother, Bo Dallas, which is Uncle Howdy now, and White Six currently. We haven't seen him in a while. I hope we see them now that Alexa Bliss is back, but
quite a reunion.
Yeah, that would be excellent. But Bray and his brother won the FCW Tag Team Champs, and he kind of, just got the call to go to the NXT, and during this time, NXT was still the game show based. It was weird. It's a forgettable experience, in my opinion. They had silly challenges and stuff like that, but he developed a character named Husky Harris.
Do you remember the tagline?
Trying to remember.
An army tank with a Ferrari engine.
Oh, yeah. Very forgettable. He didn't really have that much interaction with the crowd. It wasn't very. And then he kind of joined the Nexus late, after they already had been. I don't know. He teamed up with McGillicuddy for a little bit. And
I think he was with CM Punk in the new Nexus.
The new Nexus. Yeah, so later. So, it wasn't working out being Husky Harris. He got sent back down, actually, to FCW. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, and then he went to NXT?
No.
Or is that when
I'm sorry, when it transitioned.
So he went to FCW first, and then
went
once it rebranded.
Roster. Yes, then the main roster. But with Nexus.
And then came back to FCW.
He got sent back down.
And then
it rebranded
to NXT.
To NXT, how we know it today.
Okay.
I know, kind of confusing. He was kind of tossed around because the Husky, it just wasn't really. It didn't really work. It wasn't connecting, and he knew that, and WWE knew that. So what did he do? Well, he tried a couple things. He was a big horror fan, and he wanted to take, some of the villainous horror and mesh it into the WWE world. And so he started off with a hockey mask, and
Wow.
I mean, it just, it wasn't great. Then we had the Wyatt family. He rebranded and introduced the world to Bray Wyatt
Now this,
as a Bayou cult leader, essentially. And the family, Rowan and Harper, dominated NXT. They came in with a vengeance, and they were excellent in NXT, and the crowd, really connected with him. Led him to, doing main roster stuff. The chair, the lights. People were throwing out their flashlights, in their phone because he had the lantern, and it was excellent. It connected very well with the crowd, and I remember. I didn't like it. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't like it because I'm not a big horror fan. I'm not into that stuff. But looking back now,
sure.
This is that they debuted in 2013. The fam did. So looking back, it connected so well with people. And he really just reinvented himself from Husky Harris, into the Bray Wyatt.
You put those characters side by side. It is crazy to see the absolute night and day difference of Husky looking like just your generic everyday person on the roster.
I mean,
to Bray Wyatt, you look just at his costume alone, it immediately grabs your attention.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he, raggedy looking Bayou, some crazy cult leader, some.
Now, I have personal fond memories of the Wyatt's introduction to the WWE. In fact, the promos that they normally did, where it was Bray Wyatt, he was talking like this, man. He had little wavy promo arms.
Oh yeah.
And
The Rock.
The rocking chair and the theme song playing in the background, and at the end it'd go. Tat! I have so fond memories of this for two reasons. One, a good friend of mine, and of course, you know him well, good friend of yours. He would watch Law and Order, and because it's on USA, they throw in wrestling promos from time to time.
That's right.
And he remembers it because the Wyatts would always, they were hyping him up this much, the Wyatts would always interrupt his Law and Order program with those weird promos and theme songs and that. So
see, and this is all Bray Wyatt. He came up with all of this. I mean, it was just an instant success. When you have television network doing that, like that's big. I mean, normally they wouldn't do that for an Alex Riley or someone like that.
Right, and it just shows how instantly you can connect with something that's so creative and off the wall. Like I know. My dad loved the Wyatts. I mean, he freaking loved the Wyatts. Anytime he played the theme song constantly on YouTube throughout a loop when they first debuted. Like, I knew every word to the Catching Flies because he would play that song all the time. He thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
So especially when they first debuted, it was so unlike anything you had seen in WWE over the past few years. And he, and me by extension, was instantly attracted and drawn to the Wyatt gimmick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from his attire to his music to Sister Abigail, the name of his moves. I mean, like, just weird off-the-wall stuff. His little minions, kind of what he called them. And
the lore, the stories behind
smoke,
everything.
The lights, the chair. It's all him. And it's just amazing that someone can be so creative and just think of that because, during that time period, WWE was finding new ways to, wrestle and
Right.
And it was just a very different, revolutionary type of thing that, he came out with.
But you had his debut on the main roster. He had an Inferno match at that point, and then
with Kane, right?
Yeah, at SummerSlam.
He feuded with Kane. had an Inferno match, which was
what a way to debut. You have this interesting character mixing with one of the best characters ever in Kane, having this Inferno match. If you want to showcase this new guy on your roster, you have him do a match with one of your craziest veterans, and you just have him go for it.
Yeah.
Now, I know, and you'll probably get into this, but the journey of Bray Wyatt was so up and down.
It's very up and down.
Throughout WWE. An epic debut, but there were some hurdles
There
along
were
the way.
some lows. I want to know, he lost a lot of big matches. And WWE thought that would just, fans would just be like, look over some of that. But really, it kind of...
for a while, they did. We did.
Yeah, we did, but it kind of did hurt him a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, he kind of became
course
upper mid-card-ish, you know. But he did win the WWE Championship. Elimination Chamber.
I distinctly remember your reaction. A lot of times he'll watch a pay-per-view on what I call tape delay with me, where he doesn't look at the headlines until him and I watch the show like 2 days later. But I already know what's happened, but he doesn't. So I'm sitting here watching his reaction.
We've done this for years.
And throwing him off the sense of certain match results, because sometimes he'll have the result bang on. I'll be like, this is going to happen. I'm like, yeah, well, knowing in my head, yeah, he's right, but I got to throw him off the scent a little bit.
I've done this for years, ladies and gentlemen. Anytime Bray Wyatt was wrestling, you'd always would, because you knew I didn't really like him.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I said I didn't like him, don't come at me. I do. I just, back then,
he was weird.
And
you didn't love weird characters. And you still don't like weird characters.
No. Like, I don't really particularly like, I wish Bo Dallas was just Bo Dallas. I wish he was his own original thing. Yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, it's cool. He's kind of doing a tribute thing. First off, we haven't seen him in forever. So I have questions on what's actually going on, but I'm not a big fan of weird things. Kane is as far as, even Taker pushes it for me. And I know I'm getting heat from this. I'm just expressing my views.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's what we do here on the K.T.E podcast.
Even I thought Taker was a little bit just, at times, it's just like the 30-minute entrance to walk down to the ring, I thought was just ridiculous. I mean, but I've never been a big fan of that type of stuff. I'm more just, I like your limber, wrestlers, AJ Style. I don't know, I just kind of like that, or the extreme stuff,
Yeah.
But some of the creepy stuff I don't really connect with well, and that's all right. It's not for everyone, but for a majority of people, he connected very well. And every time he would wrestle, yeah, you knew I didn't particularly like him, but you really liked him, so you would always just throw me off. And when he won that championship, I was just...
You're like, no, Tyler, I can't do this. I can't handle this. Bray Wyatt, he's too weird. AJ Styles should have won that match.
Yep.
Should have won the championship.
Because I am still huge AJ Styles, and that was fresh AJ Styles.
Yes.
Right out of TNA AJ Styles.
Yeah, within a year.
I wanted him to come in there and win. But, so, yeah, that was a peak moment. I think they even won the Raw Tag Team Champs. For
him and Matt, yeah.
Yeah. That happened. That was when he let his minions kind of go and kind of did his own thing. And he had a feud with the Taker, Undertaker.
Yeah, 2015. We talked about that a little bit.
I'm kind of jumping around here, but
in the WrestleMania What If.
Yeah, we did. Both wrestlers were battling through injuries. Actually, Bray actually had an ankle injury during that match.
Really, I didn't know that.
He was fighting. If you rewatch the match, you'll see it. If you pay attention to it, you'll kind of notice it. And Taker being kind of slow, it wasn't like a great. I don't know if it was it wasn't like a great match. Again, we're talking about him losing big matches. That was one that he obviously lost. But overall, very successful. I mean, the family was. Even with the ups and downs.
I think they broke up the family way too soon.
And I think that hurt him.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a sense. The thing with Matt Hardy kind of random, maybe. I don't know.
The deleters of worlds.
Yeah, that was, you know.
It is. You say a lot of people connected, and they did. A lot of people did connect with the gimmick, but at the same time, most of the WWE audience, especially at that time, were people like Elijah, and that's not a knock on you as a fan. You enjoy it, you watch it constantly.
Yeah.
But you're not at that point. You weren't hardcore.
No.
You were heavy casual. When I say heavy casual, not someone who's heavily on the casual side, but someone who is a consistent casual fan.
Yeah, that was me.
Meaning he roots for the good guys, he hates the bad guys. Yeah. He gets sucked into the stories like that. And when you bring in a character like Bray Wyatt, he's just so out there that the general audience doesn't know how to feel about him. He's cool, but after a while, the general audience just thinks like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And when you get him and Matt Hardy coming together, something that's Broken Matt Hardy was awesome. I loved him, but
of course
he worked in TNA. WWE didn't know what the heck they were doing with him. No. So they smashed him and Bray together and were like, "Here you go. We're sorry that it looks so crazy."
Excuse me. It was. But hey, they had some success. I mean, that was.
But
to
your credit, and you mentioned this, Bray Wyatt was so good at reinventing himself. No matter what he did, whether he was Husky Harris, whether he was the descendant of Waylon Mercy, whether he was Bray Wyatt, he reinvented himself. And when Bray Wyatt got to a point where he wasn't working anymore,
he reinvented himself. 2019, we had the debut of The Fiend. And once again, connected right back with fans. We had Alexa Bliss.
Later on.
Towards the end, introduced.
I remember the night The Fiend debuted.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I'll go into, if you haven't seen it, which hopefully you have by now, but if you're fairly new and you really haven't seen the Fiend, this moment right here is what got Cole into wrestling.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Did not know that, actually.
And he may struggle to remember that, but I do. I shared Cole what the Fiend was. I even before then, when you had the Flyer 5 Funhouse vignettes, I shared that with the youth group at the time, and I shared that to Cole. And Cole was like, "This is like a movie cinematic. This character is so cool. Mm-hmm. He's so unique." And then that transferred into when the pandemic happened. Cole really got into wrestling, and that was coinciding with Bray Wyatt and the Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse match. But it was so unique, so cool that he got invested.
Yeah.
And I remember that first entrance where he came out with the lantern and the severed head of Bray Wyatt. I remember seeing Connor's text that night saying, "Bro, I've never seen anything like this. This is so scary, so cool, and so freaking awesome."
Yeah.
So Connor and I were just like, can't believe what we just saw.
I mean,
and you know Connor. You guys know Connor well, and I mean you know him well.
Yeah.
Connor is hard to impress when it comes to wrestling.
Yeah, because he's seen it all.
Yeah.
He thinks he's seen it all.
Yeah, he thinks he's seen it all.
I've seen that. Yeah, No. Bray Wyatt finds a way to reinvent himself and connect again. And then he brings in, Alexa Bliss, who's very attractive, and that just helps. It just adds to it, too. And she's still absolutely crazy. And but the Fiend gimmick was excellent. I mean, it's a shame,
There is a world in where the Fiend debuts, and he rides this wave of momentum, and he becomes a gimmick that we still see today, like a Kane kind of gimmick, who is just there all the time. And now, I can't speak to this, because Bray Wyatt may have gotten to the point where he felt the need to maybe reinvent, because just as much as he may have liked playing those characters, with a guy as such a creative mind as he is, maybe he needs to reinvent himself every once in a while, just so he can have that spark again.
Yeah.
just kind of like when he came back, he reinvented himself, but still had elements of the Fiend. But that's beside the point. We could have seen a world in which the Fiend stayed around for much longer than he did, for much longer than a year and a half, which I would have loved, because I personally love the Fiend. I think he is so cool. In fact, to this day, he's one of the few action figures that I still have, right in that shelf behind our camera right here. It's one of the few action figures I still keep, because I think the Fiend is awesome. I've got the action figure and I've got the Funko Pop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I've seen that. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, it had such a lasting remark on you. You still have,
Yeah, I still have fond
action
memories.
figures.
I still have
But
his action figure.
It's a shame that 2021, he kind of went away. COVID, I think COVID really just
Really hurt his momentum.
hurt
Yeah.
everything. And then the last thing he did, he had some QR codes that were hidden, like around with the rabbit. And
This was after he got re-signed, wasn't it?
yeah, this is after he got re-signed again. This is the last time. This is like, I don't know, 22,
Yeah,
23, somewhere around.
Because he got released in 21,
One.
and I remember because I texted Cole and I said, "What in the F are they doing?
Yeah.
They're releasing one of the most creative people that they have on the roster."
Just like anything, during that time.
I think a big part of it is they had no idea what they wanted to do with Bray Wyatt, because he was so popular, yet he was so off the wall. He couldn't really interact with people like a normal wrestler could. And they're still having this problem today, even with the Wyatts, the Wyatt Six. They don't know how to handle them, how to interact with the rest of the roster.
Probably why we haven't seen them, and we probably won't see them at least till after WrestleMania. I would think. I mean, we're on the road too far from now. But I hope to see them again. I do, and like I said, Alexa Bliss being.
But the
being
QR
back,
codes.
The QR codes was really cool. The last kind of, it was something new, but it also had a flavor of his past.
Yeah.
Which is, again, he's so creative. He's bringing that element in a new twist,
I remember Ryan and I got, pun intended on this, got so deep into the rabbit hole of those QR codes.
Yeah, the riddles. And
because I'd pull up my camera and I would watch so intently on the episodes of Raw, trying to watch and see where it was.
To get that code and scan it. And
there was always little hints, little codes, little QRs.
Oh, yeah. Little things here and there. And, unfortunately, his final match was against LA Knight.
Yeah.
And then, I mean,
it's evident by his last match. Okay, you see that, and it was a pitch black match. It was a Mountain Dew sponsorship match.
Oh,
with Bray Wyatt having all these kinds of weird paint, and the lighting was dark and weird. It
wasn't great. I don't know if I like the sponsor crap, but.
Yeah.
It was his last match. He did get COVID, and he passed away with his heart issue.
Yeah, exacerbated a heart issue. And if you haven't seen it, and you got the time, there's a documentary with Bo and his dad all about Bray Wyatt becoming immortal, was the title of the documentary. It's a very good documentary. Talks a lot about what Elijah has mentioned here in Bray Wyatt's life and career. So if you want to see all the information that Elijah has said and the story behind it, then
it's more in depth.
Yeah, it goes a little more in depth.
Get to hear from Bo and some family.
Yeah, some personal stories.
Yeah,
as a result of it.
Very good stuff. Highly recommend that.
But if we were to encapsulate Bray Wyatt and Husky Harris, Windham's whole encapsulation of a career on this inaugural episode of the Remember When, what would you say if you were to remember the life of Windham Rotunda? If someone were to ask you, hey, who was Windham Rotunda in wrestling?
Well, I would say he is one of the most, if not most, creative wrestlers of all time. Hands down, one of the best promos, promo shooting, um, gear sold. I mean, you talk about, and his wrestling was very good too. But he is going to be remembered as one of the most creative, innovative, and flat out weird wrestlers, I think, like ever.
Yeah. So remember when Bray Wyatt had his WWE debut? Remember when Husky Harris was on TV? Hey, remember when The Fiend debuted at SummerSlam against Finn Balor? Hey, remember when Bray Wyatt had his last match?
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us today on Remember When? Next week, we take a little bit of a detour. I say next week, but next edition of Remember When, we take a little bit of a detour. And we remember TNA for the very first time here on the K.T.E Wrestling Podcast.
Yes, sir.
And Elijah and I have some fond memories of TNA.
Lots of fond memories.
He just sent me a video not too long ago about some of the extreme moments in TNA history. Oh man.
So much to go over.
Yeah, it goes nicely with our ECW podcast. We've been recently talking about Kurt Angle and all that he did for the brand. Goes into TNA. So, ladies and gentlemen, comment below not only about your personal experiences with Bray Wyatt, Husky Harris, all the characters that he's portrayed and what he brought to the screen, but also comment below for our next edition. TNA, some of your fondest memories, some of the things you'd maybe like to see us talk about or bring up. Until next time, remember that this has been the K.T.E podcast. He's been E.
I am.
I've been T. And we'll see you soon.